You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Wednesday show talking about the Kansas Income Tax Institute with K-State and Washburn law professor Roger McEowen and K-State Extension Assistant Rich Llewelyn. Roger, Rich, thank you both so much for taking the time to join us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Good to be with you, Shelby.
Rich, what is the Kansas Income Tax Institute?
Well, this has been going for 76 years, and it started after World War II in the 1940s as a tax seminar for farmers to help them do their tax returns. It's kind of morphed into a two-day seminar, which mostly provides continuing education for accountants and tax attorneys and tax return preparers. And so there's still a few farmers that will attend, but most of it is tax professionals who are trying to understand the tax code and also who need the continuing ed credit.
Why has K-State continued to put this on for the past 76 years?
Well, it's helpful for the practitioners to have this education, and there's a number of universities that provide this around the nation. We work closely with the University of Illinois, and they actually provide the tax workbook that we offer to our attendees. Roger McEowen is one of the authors on that. And so we're providing this education and making it available through our extension service.
And Roger, can you share with us some of the speakers and topics that will be taking place with this Tax Institute?
Well, I'll be at every location, at least on day 2, but on the online seminars, also participating on day 1. And with me on day 1 on the online seminars is Paul Neefer. Paul is a CPA retired from Clifton Larson Allen a couple of years ago, and he still is active, but not with the firm. And he's pretty well known. He and I cover a lot of farm tax issues for people all across the country. And he and I do day 1 of the online seminars together. There are 2 of those. The first one and the last one are online. And we share that time at those schools. And then at 2 other locations, we also share day 1 together at those schools, too. And then participating on day 2 at 4 of the schools would be Professor Ed Morse at the Creighton Law School. Ed is an outstanding tax professional and speaker. He's an attorney and a CPA. And with me on day 2 at every location is Kathy Murphy. Kathy is a retired former IRS agent and then the practitioner stakeholder liaison for Missouri before she retired from IRS, and she's currently in private practice as a CPA. So we cover day 2 at every location. So the 4 of us, myself and Paul and Ed and Kathy, those are the teaching teams that people will encounter at each location.
What are the different topics that you guys will be breaking down?
Well, we're going to get into partnership terminations and terminating a partner's interest in a partnership. That's pretty technical stuff. And so we're going to go through those partnership tax rules. And then we've got a session on individual taxpayer issues where we're going to get into a look again at the net investment income tax and how lawsuit settlements are treated from a tax standpoint and some gift tax issues. And of course, Rich had mentioned that the tax rules originally were for farmers, and we still, to this day, have a very significant component of every tax institute involving agricultural issues. We're going to look at such things as LLCs and SE tax and the SAF fuel credit, the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Credit, and what we're going to see with Section 45Z coming up in 2025. What are some options for retiring farmers, all the way from installment sales to 721 exchanges and everything in between, split interest land acquisitions, how you report farm program payments, and a host of other issues that come up with respect to farm tax, including the latest from the tax court and the IRS that affect farmers. Then we're going to get into a session on taxation issues associated with divorce. The state of Kansas will have about 50 minutes to make their presentation and update practitioners on new forms and what's happened in the most recent legislative session that will impact 2024 returns. And then we'll cover all the new developments and the rulings and cases that have happened in the past year. And Kathy she'll give us an IRS update for about an hour at each location on day 2. And she'll cover things such as how you apply for an I-10, your P-10 fees, and various IRS forms and initiatives and procedures, and what might be some systemic issues inside the agency itself. And she'll also talk on various Form 1099 issues. And then I'll do a session also on how you plan for the possible sunset of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act after next year, after the end of next year. We'll see what happens. That's all tied up in politics. So we'll see what happens with respect to that. And then we'll finish each day with some rulings and cases, the most recent from the courts as well as the IRS. So that's kind of how things are laid out over the 2 days at each location.
A lot of information sounds like that attendees will be getting. Will there be an opportunity for them to ask questions?
Oh, yes. We entertain questions throughout the day. We don't necessarily set aside a block of time for it, but people are always welcome at our schools to raise questions as we're addressing a particular topic. So people have learned over the years not to be shy. We like to take questions on the fly.
At the Kansas Income Tax Institute, is there an opportunity for continuing education credits?
Well, I can speak to that. Yes, there is, and we have it for a variety of practitioners. The Kansas Board of Accountancy for CPAs, also the Kansas Continuing Legal Ed Commission for attorneys, the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, as well as some real estate credits, and then also for IRS enrolled agents and other tax return preparers who need the IRS credits. It's for most of these, it's 16 hours of credit. We don't have ethics in these meetings, but there is 2 hours of ethics that will be offered through Washburn on December 20th, and I think Roger can talk a little more about that.
Yeah, that's right, Rich. What I'll do is provide 2 hours of ethics. It'll actually be teaching from the ethics chapter in the workbook that every attendee will get. And there'll be a lower rate, as we've done in the past, for those that register for the tax schools. So if you've already gone to the tax schools, you got your book, it's a very cheap 2 hours of credit for you, a little bit more for those that didn't register and attend a tax school. But that'll be on December 20th, midday, probably from like 1 to 3. And don't quite have that link ready to go, but that'll be up before we start the first of the tax schools.
Is there an opportunity for possibly Kansas farmers or ranchers who are really interested in this to also attend?
Sure, we welcome anybody to attend. The educational level is designed for the professional level, so any farmer is welcome to attend. Particularly, they would enjoy, I think, the ag chapter, the specific agricultural issues. But if they can't attend, they want to make sure that their tax practitioner attends, because this will be very helpful for them. But certainly all are welcome.
You mentioned these are 2-day events. Are people able to only attend one day or the other?
Yes, they can. So we have a separate registration for either day, or both days is also available, and that's what most people do. And if they have to, we can break it up, and they could attend one day at one location and another day, the second day somewhere else.
Rich, what are the locations for the Kansas Income Tax Institute?
Well, we have 6 locations that are in person. The first couple are in western Kansas, Garden City and Hays on November 4th and 5th, and then November 6th and 7th in Hays. And then we move to Lawrence on November 13th and 14th. We have a meeting right before Thanksgiving in Salina, November 25th and 26th. And then the week after Thanksgiving is in Wichita, December 2nd and 3rd. And then we close the in-person meetings on December 11th and 12th in Pittsburgh in southeast Kansas. We also have 2 online meetings, and the first one is before everything else on October 30th and 31st, so that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And then we have one after everything else is finished on December 16th and 17th.
What is the cost of registration?
For both days in person, it's $385, and then both days online is $325. We don't have the meals and some of that expense, so we're able to make that a little bit cheaper. For those that are online, we'll have the workbook available through the mail. We'll mail it to them when they register. For those who are coming in person, they'll be able to pick that up at the location.
And as always, where can people go to find out more information?
The agmanager.info website, look for events, and this is at the top of that list. And so folks could find it that way, or they could send me an email if they have questions, rvl@ksu.edu.
Roger, for Kansas farmers or ranchers who would like their tax professional to go, how do you recommend they encourage them to go?
Well, what I'd say, Shelby, is that these tax schools, the level of education is pretty high. I think these are the best tax CPE, CLE credits that a tax professional could get anywhere in the state of Kansas. Our teaching teams are absolutely outstanding. And so it's an opportunity for them to brush up on their education, ask questions of us. And so so they can feel comfortable doing those returns for the 24 tax season. We do get into the unique farm tax issues. Both Paul and I have written extensively and spoken extensively over the years. And a lot of people have turned to us for unique insight on farm tax issues. So it's a great bargain. This is fulfilling the land grant mission to take the education out to the people, and it's done at a very affordable rate compared to other professional level seminars like this. So it's a great opportunity for people, and I would encourage all farmers to have their practitioners attend if they possibly can.
Roger, Rich, I appreciate you both taking the time to join us today.
Thanks much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Shelby.
That was K-State and Washburn Law Professor Roger McEowen and K-State Extension Assistant Rich Llewelyn. I will put a link in today's show notes on agtoday.net if you'd like to learn more about the Kansas Income Tax Institute.